It's no doubt that F-Zero is a great series, but what in the macaroni is this? Uchuu Race Astro Go. I could sneeze up a better name if I wanted to. Still, Uchuu Race Astro Go is one of those games you just kinda know right off the bat that it's a copycat, a clone, whatever you make of it. But it's an F-Zero clone, which always is going to pique my interest. Still, this game has nothing to hide, it just wants to be just like F-Zero. But you can also say that the PSP Go wanted to be just like the Nokia Sidekick, and look how that turned out. Still, this game is unique in its own way, but not original in the sense. It's funny how I found out about Uchuu Race Astro Go through a YouTube short. I was very curious to know more about this game, since I haven't really heard many people talking about it. The game looks like an F-Zero clone, plays like an F-Zero ROM hack, and its soundtrack sounds like something you'd hear on Nickelodeon. The bass really does slap hard, it almost feels like a paddling. So what happened? This game released in 1994, which was the perfect year for Super Nintendo. So many classic games that came out that year. This game could have definitely made some impressions in the Western market and turned some heads. Albeit, people would have assumed that this was the sequel to F-Zero. Knowing how big F-Zero got back in 1991, Uchuu Race Astro Go would have made an incredible addition to the SNES anti-gravity racers at the time. A North American version of Uchuu Race Astro Go was planned, titled Freeway Flyboys, but was unreleased. There was a short review in Nintendo Power about the game. It was in issue number 62. That was the same issue that has a very infamous gaming ad that was called out by one very angry nerd.
Now here's the worst one yet. It's some old creepy bitch holding a log of shit.
The review goes like this. What would happen if you combined F-Zero with Care Bears? What? Well, you'd probably get arrested. I can't believe they actually wrote that. But what you get on screen might resemble Freeway Flyboys. So where does all this weirdness come from? On the planet Daisy Age, there's an annual race called the Astro Go between 5 top racers. When you join the race, you'll launch into a wild high-speed Mode 7 affair with lots of jumps, and opponents that look like Barney's goofier cousins. You can race the entire circuit, or try to set the record in time trials. The pros about the game is that the racing can be fun, particularly good for younger players. The cons about the game is that there's not much challenge, weird themes, and characters. What was this reviewer smoking when they wrote this? Care Bears? Barney's goofier cousin? Arrested? What? Like what? What the actual fuck? Anyway, I seem to be getting my sources confused because I found out that Uchuu Race Astro Go was an anime series that aired in Japan in 1976. The show was also known as Space Race Astro Go. It was created by Tatsunoko Production, a well-known anime studio, and directed by Hiroshi Sasagawa. But then I looked further into it and it mentions that the story Uchuu Race Astro Go revolves around a young boy named Astro, who dreams of becoming a great space racer when he discovers a powerful racing car named Cosmobot, which can transform into a giant robot and competes against various rivals in thrilling races through the cosmos. Now he goes on to say that Uchuu Race Astro Go is part of the larger Tatsunoko Pro franchise, which includes other popular anime series like Speed Racer and Gatchaman. So the problem is that the description here conflicts with the in-game character of the 1994 SNES game called Uchuu Race Astro Go, the game that we're talking about today. I'm assuming the character Jet is supposed to be Astro from the anime, but I can't verify that. When I tried to look up Space Race Astro Go, I can't find anything about it. No films, clips, videos, nothing. The only thing that I could find that's even remotely similar to Uchuu Race Astro Go was an anime called Time Boken. The premise seems very close to the game. The machines are shaped and molded after insects. It has a sci-fi concept attached to it. I'm not really sure if Uchuu Race Astro Go is an original idea that's not based off of a movie or anime, but the game was inspired by F-Zero to the point that it replicated its aesthetics and level designs. The game does a few new things to make it stand out by its own, so let's get into that now. On the main menu, you have options between Astro GP and Time Trial. Going on to Astro GP, this is your Grand Prix mode, and you get to choose between normal race or power race. I don't know what the hell power race is supposed to mean. Maybe that's just a harder difficulty, but you know me, I'm not a risk taker. As you click on normal race, you are now shown the 5 pilots and their vehicles. First, you have Jet with his blue one. It has an overall average rate with this machine. EO with their Gyro Type 2 machine. What happened to Gyro Type 1? This is the only game that he's in. Why even call it Gyro Type 2? His machine is more focused on the weight on the car and top speed. Now moving on, Love with the Luna Bee machine. Her car has good acceleration, handling, top speed, and braking. By the way, is it cold in here or are you just happy to see me? Next up is Fly High and their Cool Jam machine. It does well with braking, acceleration, and handling. Lastly, which I think is one of the worst machines from the bunch, is Barry Vehicle. You could feel the weight on this machine and it doesn't just go as fast as the others. But surprisingly enough, when you're competing against it, it will always seem to be way ahead in first place throughout the levels. I didn't really realize this in the character select screen until way later, but the circles around the machines, they were basically showing you the stats of each and every pilot's vehicles. But of course, Uchuu Astro Go Racer wanted to be way different than F-Zero. When you look back on the original F-Zero game and you see the way that it showcases the stats for every vehicle, it just makes you understand it much better. It's just very simple, easy to understand. Right here is the different cups that you get to choose to race in. Each cup has 5 tracks to get through. I really like the design here because it has that solar system aesthetic feel to it, like you're actually traversing through the different worlds in this game within each and every cup. One annoying part here that I noticed is that every time you switch to a different option, there's always this strange sound effect that it makes. The fact that it's a constant sound effect in the option menus means that you're gonna hear it a lot, and boy, do I love repetition. Press any of the cup leagues, and boom, you're booted right into the game just like that. Although Uchuu Astro Go Racer is in 3D, there is no rotation in the game, giving the feel that the player is racing in a single line rather than a circuit. The machines in Uchuu Astro Go Racer speeds up to about 800 kilometers per hour, which equates to 500 miles per hour and can be achieved with the speed booster. But what is all this? Purple racetracks? Green conveyor belts? Obstacles that bounce you around? Is this an actual racer, or are we at the damn circus? I understand that the people in the 90s and even before had a very exaggerated idea of what the future would look like. Even F-Zero kind of went a bit whimsical with its aesthetic and environment. Still, in Uchuu Astro Go Racer, this is just too extravagant and experimental, like, hello, I'm trying to race here, what's the deal with all these lollipops? I'm very certain that eventually I'm gonna find a clown on the side of the racetrack. Wait, never mind, there he is. I can't really explain the different types of racetracks in Uchuu Astro Go Racer design-wise. There's a fire track, an ice track, then you got a track that looks like it was stripped right out of the Candyland board game. Unlike F-Zero, losing the race due to death, falling into pits, running out of energy, it's impossible to die in Uchuu Astro Go Racer because there's a rescue vehicle that is always available to rescue the player. The camera angle in this game kind of perplexes me. Your machine kind of is sort of panned out in a way that you see the top perspective, but it's angled where you also see the back of the machine. Uchuu Astro Go Racer automatically assumes that you know the tracks pretty well because you're going to be making turns and swerves. The game depth perception is pretty poor. You won't be able to expect what kind of turns you'll be making very soon because the front of the screen doesn't show you fast enough. As you're racing in the game, your pilot is going to make sound effects whenever you pass another vehicle, or if those vehicles passes you, you'll hear your pilot either exclaim in joy or be disappointed. To this regard, it gives the pilots some personality, not a lot though, like seriously not a lot, but still, more than I can think of for this game. In the original F-Zero, you don't hear the pilots at all, but you do have a chance to understand their backgrounds through a comic that was available in the instruction manuals of the main game. It made you really feel for these characters in F-Zero to the point like you were racing for a purpose. In Uchuu Astro Go Racer, I really don't know what the purpose are for these pilots. It may have been said in the instruction manuals, and if anyone wants to look at the screenshot here and tell me what the story is, please comment below because I would greatly appreciate that. Another thing in this game that irks me so much is these annoying whistle sound effects that you would hear in the race every time there's a machine right behind you. It's just constantly going off to the point where I just want to lower the volume. Like, why even program these sound effects? Like, are you trying to torture me? Is that what you're trying to do, game developer who made Uchuu race Astro Go? Like, why even go to that extent? And you know what? Like a slap to the face, the game tells me to cheer up whenever I place 4th or 5th. Cheer up? Are you kidding me? This is the case where being experimental just overall messes up the clearer picture of what the game devs were trying to go for. Look at all this bouncing around. What is this, a pinball game now? I'm getting nauseous just even thinking about it. Like, seriously, who even developed this game? Well, looking even further into it, I found out that it was developed by Kaze. They made this NES game that I'm familiar with called Zombie Nation. It's a shmup game where you pilot a severed head. Yes, I know, weird. But then I got to see their other work. They have developed a ton of pinball games. Okay, fine, you're very much into pinball, and you make pinball games, cool. But pinball games mechanics in a racer is not fun. It's okay to make hazards and obstacles through racetracks. F-Zero is the prime example of that. When you clash into an obstacle, it's really your fault. The tracks are more designed around speed and maneuvers. F-Zero teaches you how to be an efficient racer, but Uchuu Astro Go Racer wants you to already be a great racer while avoiding cheap obstacles with terrible camera angles that is at your disadvantage. Okay, I'm gonna be a bit kind here and say that what I really liked about Uchuu Astro Go Racer is that each and every machine is based off an insect or some sort of animal. The sounds of the machines aren't too appealing, it more so has that sort of screeching effect to it, which yeah, I'm not too crazy about. But overall, this is an interesting game. It's not easy. I don't know what the hell this reviewer was talking about when they reviewed the game back in '94, but Uchuu Astro Go Racer is definitely a game you'd play when you're trying to find something a bit different from F-Zero. I believe if this game would have had a North American release, it would probably have gotten sort of a cult following, maybe a sequel, because it isn't a bad game, but as you could tell, it's not afraid of showing off its inspiration from F-Zero. Uchuu Astro Go Racer is a game that replicated what worked in F-Zero, but did a bit too much experimenting with its game to make itself seem as an oddity from all the racers that associates itself with F-Zero. To that, I would say that's kind of an achievement in itself. If you ever get a chance to play this or want to, please let me know your thoughts so far about this. And if you enjoyed today's video, I do have others to check out as well. Make sure to like the video, comment below, and subscribe. By doing this, you help the channel grow and be recommended to others. My name is Spirit, and I thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.